When creating something, what's more important? Technical proficiency or the way something makes you feel? The obvious answer to this question is, of course, why not both? That makes sense. There are countless masterpieces out there that are both masters of their craft as well as amazing expressions of a wonderful idea executed perfectly, right? The Lord of the Rings, The Godfather, Bug Snacks. There is no shortage of true masterworks out there, but a far more interesting question is, what if you don't have both? Can you make something truly great or even good without actually being good? Should not be having coffee at like 3:24. I got school tomorrow. Anyways, I had a bit of a webcomic phase. And before you leave a comment, no, the webcomic I made is not the title of this video. My ego is pretty big, yes, but I am not so arrogant as to make a video called The Greatest Webcomic You've Never Heard Of and have it be about something I made. However, it is big enough for me to brag about it. So you guys remember the whole Biden blast meme? It started up with this like image of our boy BD Joe charging up a Final Flash, and then the AI voice thing kind of came in, and then it all kind of whoosh from there. And this one YouTube guy, Ruples, he made like a whole ass series about it, right? And it's got like 6 episodes for Trump, Biden, and Obama doing like shonen battle manga shit. And for some reason, that was just like the funniest shit in the fucking universe to me. Like, in retrospect, it's pretty dumb, but like this was like a Pickle Rick moment for me. Let's practice my social media. Let's get involved with community. Let's make a webcomic adaptation of the first episode. The Stars and Stripes webcomic that I made, right? It's admittedly pretty poorly drawn for a couple reasons. One, I consider myself a good enough artist. This is kind of a rare phenomenon in the art world. I'm not really like striving to be the best drawer or painter or artist I could possibly be. And number 2, I'm certainly not going to spend hours grueling over every single panel of the silly little meme comic. But despite the lack of innate drawing quality, people seem to enjoy it. I got lots of positive comments of people saying like how they laughed and how much fun they had and like how goofy and fun it is, and I had a lot of fun making it too. Sometimes I would be drawing some of the panels and just laugh at how fucking stupid it was. It was just a silly, lighthearted, good, fun time all around. So why am I bragging about that one time I made a webcomic? Is it to get more views on it? No. Because it already has a lot of views. I don't need more. Round it up. It has 2,000 views. Here's the kicker. A buddy of mine from college, local Tumblr artist Vin Blair / Let Me Eat Cake, also kind of sort of has a webcomic. And it's not just theirs. They're teaming up with a few other different people. So we have a whole, a squad of people working together to make an actual webcomic that's actually well drawn and actually has, a story that someone written, and not just a dumb, stupid meme that someone else made that I'm just copying and adapting. And yet, despite all that, I 10x'd you in the view count. Ha! Take that, cat. I'm better. My webcomic beat yours. Whoop, whoop. Whoop, whoop. I win. Oh, we're okay. But the actual reason I'm bragging about my webcomic is to give you an example of how something that's kind of sloppily made, that doesn't have the craftsmanship to it, can still be beloved. And I just happened to chose my own work as an example of that, because I'm kind of a fucking narcissist. I did it to show you how love, passion, and creativity can make up that difference that your raw skill might be lacking. Because as silly of a meme as this was, my heart was in it. This video isn't about my webcomic, and this video isn't about local Tumblr artist Vin Blair's comic Room 46, which I can't believe I didn't mention the title of until now. In fact, both of these comics, most webcomics, I would argue pale in comparison to the sheer genius that is Rocky the Rock. Rocky the Rock is a webcomic made by one Diego Palacios, and let me tell you, I gotta warn you, it looks horrible. I know that's awfully mean to just call someone's art ugly, you know? If you're really trying to help someone improve and, give feedback, you give specific critiques, but to just call something ugly it's not helpful, and thus it's just mean, but I'm calling it like I see it. Yeah, it's a bit of an ugly comic, but again, what matters more? How something looks or how it makes you feel, right? You can clearly tell this is an aspiring artist putting himself out there. And I've scrolled through Webtoon and Tapas, and I've seen what's pretty. The only real comic that appealed to me was Toaster Dude, and Toaster Dude is too popular to fulfill the never heard of it part of this video's title, and thus is not the topic of today's video, but I could totally make a video about it if you guys wanted to see one, wink wink. However, for the rest of the stuff on the site, it's a dime a dozen, man. Right? All these dramatic webcomics about there's a noble house with an illegitimate daughter and she... Me. Boring. It's just a bunch of anime white people looking at each other like, oh, whoa. And there's a bunch of, shiny flowers floating around, and then, oh, wait a minute. The reason they all look the same is because the default front page of Tapas is the romance genre. Well, why don't we click a different genre and get something a little more diverse, right? How about the BL? Yeah, let's click the Black Lives genre. Well, what the hell? Even the Black Lives genre is filled with white people. What the hell? But unlike all these other poser comics, Rocky the Rocky actually stands out. So enough beating around the bush. What exactly is Rocky the Rock? Well, it's the ultimate parody of tropes and shonen battle manga / anime and, cheesy action in general. And as a sort of ultimate parody, that Ratatouille line comes to mind where the work of the critic is parasitic to that of the creator. I wonder if that logic applies to me. And sure, media that requires your understanding of other media in advance will always be inferior to a story that doesn't. But in Rocky's defense, I implore you to search some of the popular webcomic sites and count up how many of them have either the word dungeon, demon lord, or villain / villainess in their title. Go ahead, look around those sites, count them up, and come back to me. My point in this is playing off tropes is something that will never go away. Okay, so it's like a parody, but that still doesn't answer the question of what is Rocky the Rock. Well, it's a very generic slay the bad guy, save the world type of story, right? The twist this time, the real hoot in the doot, the kicker in the wicker basket, is that the main character is a rock. Not a sentient rock, not a magical rock that can move, no. The main character, the one true hero of this story, is an inanimate boulder. It can't move, it doesn't do anything, and yet, it is the protagonist. And you may be wondering, well, if the protagonist, right, is an inanimate object that can't actually do anything, how does the story work? Right? And that's a great question. And, well, have you ever seen a story with a real Mary Sue type character and the plot just kind of happens at the protagonist and they just succeed and it's on to the next thing? That's kind of how Rocky the Rock works. The story actually begins with the teacher of local ninja school being like, there's a prophecy that will be fulfilled and the world will be saved by the chosen one who will fall out of the sky. Spoiler alert, that prophecy gets real fulfilled. A rock falls from the sky, right, and into ninja school, and bada bing bada boom, there's your chosen one. Because of the prophecy, every character perceives Rocky as the hero. The kind of, sort of, the actual protagonist, but technically not the protagonist, is Kimura. Kimura is the only person who is sane enough to see that, hey, isn't it kind of ridiculous that the hero is a rock and Kimura's the crazy one here? He's the only guy who sees Rocky for what he truly is, an inanimate object. Now that in and of itself is great, but the other side to Kimura is that he's very, very, very entitled. He believes that it is his God-given birthright to be the chosen one. Kimura is understandably jealous that a rock is the chosen one instead of him. He wants so hard to succeed and to be a badass hero, and he never, ever, succeeds at it. Despite all of his trying, he just can't. Meanwhile, Rocky, right, his fights or anytime he tries to do anything is basically just Luigi wins by doing absolutely nothing. And if you really wanted to like dive deep, I guess you could say the theme of Rocky the Rock is like the pink elephant theory, right? The more you try and the more desperation you have, the less likely you are to actually achieve or get the thing. So Kimura and Rocky set out on their quest to save the world from some vague unknown threat. And once they do, we get our first villain of the week ass looking villain, right? The bodybuilder goblin. And they serve as a perfect example of how an inanimate object can win a fight and progress the story. And the answer this time is pretty simple, because have you ever tried punching a rock? If you haven't, you could give it a bit of a test run on your local concrete pavement. Let me know how that works out for you. So the bodybuilder goblins defeat themselves by trying to beat Rock. And in the process, he saves Jenny. Jenny is probably my favorite character in the entire series because she is very much a parody of girl whose only personality trait is being girl. Right? She immediately falls with Rocky after being saved. Oh, my hero! And of course, Kimura is, once again, extremely jealous of a rock, right? Anytime Kimura tries to bond with or get closer or befriend or romance Jenny, he always fails miserably. It's extremely awkward, and it is just so fun to watch this guy frustratingly struggle to be better than an inanimate object. Oh, another funny bit about Jenny is that her tragic backstory is that she went to a magician show with her parents, and the magician made them disappear and didn't make them reappear. Dun dun dun. Oh, sometimes it's just the simplest things that are the best. Now, before we continue, I'm gonna toss in a few critiques of Rocky the Rock, which may sound a little counterintuitive in a video titled The Best Webcomic You've Never Heard Of, but, well, I just gotta be honest, right? First of all, sometimes, the author tries to cram too much joke sauce into one panel. For instance, during the bodybuilder goblin fight, the last goblin dies of a heart attack, and that's how Rocky wins, and, right, that's hilarious, right? It's very much a protagonist gets lucky situation. Just a random heart attack kills a villain in the fight scene. That's funny. But it's kind of taken away from when he immediately throws in another joke about, health and safety and how we can be prepared for heart attacks and call 911. And it's supposed to be like a parody of obligatory educational content being thrown into cartoons and whatnot. And that could have been a great joke, but the fact that it was thrown in here really, takes away from the funniness of the villain dying to a heart attack randomly in a fight scene. I think it would have been better without the health and safety. And much more egregiously, sometimes the author doesn't come up with a funny way to parody a trope, and instead just points at it and laughs. Right? During the bodybuilder goblin fight, the blue goblin dodges a projectile, and then Jenny shouts out, "He dodged it!" And people commentating a fight that's happening, in battle anime is a very common trope, and it is awfully silly if you think about it, right? But instead of doing anything fun or clever to make fun of the trope of fight commentating, he just has another character point to it and say, "Ha, isn't that dumb?" This happens again with a later villain who reveals herself to the heroes and, introduces herself, as villains tend to do in these cheesy stories, right? And then another character, or one of her underlings, says, "Well, why didn't we just ambush them?" And in a comic that's trying to parody these cheesy action stories, it really subtracts from the experience when the characters don't take these silly rules seriously, because they're like a part of the world. These little marvelisms of, characters pointing to a dumb thing that happens saying, "Huh, isn't that silly?" Right? Well, actually, come to think of it, that goes to show that our boy Diego Palacios, his writing skills are at minimum on par with Marvel's cinematic writers. So, kind of a compliment. I mean, this was back in 2017 before Infinity War, so just saying, he could be living it big now. Oh, another funny bit that I didn't notice on my first read-through was that one of the bodybuilder goblins just has a book
called How to Eat Humans? That's just hilarious to me. Can you tell who the bad guy is? Right? It almost kind of makes him sympathetic, like, the rest of his friends want to eat humans, and he's just struggling to keep up and just wants to learn because they do it. But of course, by telling you that joke, instead of you reading it in the comic yourself, I've sort of robbed you of the experience, haven't I? In fact, I could sit here and continue to tell you about all the sorts of funny things that happen in Rocky the Rock. But if I did that, well, that would just ultimately be an inferior experience to just reading the darn thing yourself. But at the same time, this video has to exist. So that leads me at a bit of a crossroads for what to do. So I've decided that instead of telling you any more about the comic, I'll simply give you another little taste in the form of a comic dub, so you actually are experiencing the thing for yourself, sort of. So without further ado, I give you one sampling comic dub of Rocky the Rock, voiced by me and no one else because I'm too shy to ask for help. And let the curtains roll. The stormy and rocky sea. A place of danger, death, howdy, and the ghosts of my tragic past. I mean the literal ghosts of my literal past.
Boo, I'm spooky.
You left us, Garrick. We trusted you, and you ran away. Did you even care about us? Of course I do. But I had to survive, to be there for my son.
Boo, no one cares about your dumb family. Attack!
Wait, this is between Garrick and us. Anyone from Garrick's crew, except Garrick, who takes a step back, will live. I'm with you, Rocky. I'll protect you, Jenny, and look cool doing it. I see you all made your choice.
Boo, your choice stinks. Attack.
Moderate-sized fireball!
No! Impossible!
I finally did it!
My first successful fireball. Just kidding, I'm a ghost. Also, your captain's ship is burning. But what the ghosts don't know is that Rocky has a plan to defeat them.
He's surrounded by salt!
Salt? Oh no, our extremely specific weakness was discovered. Is this another joke?
Actually, it is the truth. From ancient times, it is believed that salt was used to keep evil spirits away. It was common to make salt circles as a way to expel ghosts. But how did he get all the salt? It's simple. He gathered it from the sea.
Oh, Rocky, you're so smart. Oh, come on, it was just a coincidence.
He planned this from the beginning. He's 1,000 steps ahead of us. In conclusion, this video is a bit of a lie, because I don't think that Rocky the Rock is actually the greatest comic you've never heard of. As we've established, it does have its flaws beyond just the visual, and there may be several of you who go off to read it after seeing this video and aren't impressed, and that's okay. But when I read this when I was like 16, right, I found this shit to be like extremely funny. I was laughing my ass off at like every single page. And that, in and of itself, is, wonderful, right? Everyone loves a good laugh. But the real inspiring thing was that enjoyment came from a comic that was this poorly drawn. Because it taught me that the thought, I'm not good enough, is no longer a valid excuse. And it never was. If you really want to make something, I don't think you should let a lack of skill or competence stop you from doing that. Because by the time you've practiced for 1,000 hours, you've probably forgotten about the initial idea that you were so passionate about and thrown it in the garbage. We hold back our cringy works and hide them out of fear of being cringe. I'm guilty of this as well. I've deleted several works of mine, right, because I thought they were horrible. But Rocky the Rock taught me that you should put yourself out there even if you don't think you're good enough to do so. Very often, we've all heard, the whole shtick of, well, if you share your art, other people can critique it and give feedback, and then you can improve even faster. And that is true, and that's wonderful advice, and it's very solid. But it isn't the only reason to share your work. Even those works that we think are cringe could still be enjoyed and beloved by people. Yeah, that's kind of a big if, it's a chance, but Rocky the Rock taught me that it is a risk so worth taking. So sure, Rocky the Rock is, probably just some kid goofing around on the internet and making a silly little fun comic. To me, it means so much more than that. So sure, Rocky the Rock might just be some kid goofing around, having a fun time making a silly little comic on the internet. Just like I did with my presidential battle manga. But to me, it's so much more than just that. To me, it has a lot of life lessons, intentionally or not. I've left a link to the original actual comic that you can go and actually read in the description. There's also links to that one comic, Room 46, I talked about, that was made by one of my friends, as well as my own comic, because, just why not? Let's throw that in the description as well. To that one guy who commented on my last video, yes, I will get the Fire Emblem Bloodlines music out eventually. I just have bigger fish to fry, and I wanted to get some real content out before I start ripping music OSTs and putting them on my channel. To anyone wondering, does this have anything to do with my rock short film series? The answer is a bit boring. No, but kind of yes. You see, the science, it says that the creative parts of the brain are also like the remixing part of the brain, and while making those 3 assignments, this old comic was not in my mind at all. I only remembered that it existed until, kind of recently, and that's when I decided to make the video about it. But who knows, maybe it might have been, in my subconscious while making those. Thanks a whole huge bunch-a-rooney for watching. Is the best blank you've never heard of gonna be a series? Is this what I do now as a YouTube? I don't know, we'll see. That's all the conclusion stuff I can think of for this video, unless I forgot something, but, well, if I did forget something, I wouldn't know about it now. Bye-bye.